Welcome to Apethorpe Hall. I'm Nick Hill, the project manager with English Heritage for the rescue project that we've been doing here over the last 4 or 5 years. And we're standing here outside the main entrance front where King James would have stood back in the early 17th century. So we're about to go in through the main entrance door and start the tour. Altogether, Apethorpe Hall is a very extensive house. There are something like 200 rooms altogether and 50,000 square feet of space. This has been one of the largest country house rescue projects in England in recent years, and one of the largest undertakings English Heritage has ever undertaken of this type. We've spent a total of £4 million on rescuing the building. It's taken something like 150,000 man-hours of expert craftsman time. But actually we've only done about half of what's necessary to do here. The best future that it's going to have is in the hands of a private owner. That's what it's been, a private country house for over 350 years of its life, and we think that that's the most appropriate way. And in many ways, this is the way that a house most retains its character if it's lived in by a private family. Of course, one of the key things that alongside that we want to ensure is that the public can come and see it, and one of the conditions that we'll be putting on the sale of the house is that the public will have access to come on special visits. The guide price of the house is 4.5 to 5 million. It's an extraordinary opportunity to buy a whole slice of England's history, both the architecture and this connection with monarchs. Monarchs visits, Elizabeth, James I, Charles I. This is the White Stair, which is the grand stair of approach to the state rooms, which are all on the upper floors. And this was the stair that Queen Elizabeth would have come up when she came here. It's been through many changes since then, and what we see now is largely created in the 18th century. This leads on into the most important room in the house, the King's bedchamber. Built especially for James I. The house, of course, has a long connection with many monarchs and was actually at one time owned by Henry VIII, only briefly. But here we've got a wonderful fireplace behind me, which is the most ornate of all because it's here in the King's bedchamber, the fanciest one. And this one shows the two figures here with the curtains being drawn apart, war and peace. And this again is a great piece of symbolism. James, honouring James for staying out of the wars in Europe over many, many years. Here we are in the most impressive room of the whole house, the Long Gallery. But what we know in particular about this room, and it's because of the information on the fireplace, is that it was used also for music. The family had a particular tradition of writing plays, masques, and creating music. And we know from the evidence of the fireplace that this was the room that they used for it. And so clearly they had family and special guest concerts to entertain in style in this grand room. We're going to go on down into the gardens and down there I hope to find George Kelly, who's been looking after these gardens now. He's been on site for 38 years altogether and quite a hero of the place really, in that I think without him Apethorpe probably through all the grim years of neglect and decay in the 60s and 70s probably would have been lost altogether.
So when I first came in the 60s, it was just a job. But as you grew up, my children were born here, my grandkids have been brought up here, and it's a place that you can walk around in the evening, nobody here, and it's just peaceful. It's been a big part of my life, obviously, and always will be now.